We had just taken our final wedding photos when a man in a black baseball cap tapped my shoulder. "Someone asked me to give you this," he said, then vanished into the crowd. An unmarked envelope, sealed with a strip of tape. No name. No handwriting. Inside was a single note and a key. "This is the key to your wife's apartment. Not yours, another one. The address is on the back. Go today while she's sleeping. Open the door. You'll understand why she was in such a hurry to get married." I stood in the middle of the ballroom, champagne in one hand, betrayal curled in the other. "Hi, my name is Carter Hayes, and 5 hours into my marriage I realized someone else knew a version of my wife that I didn't. I could have ignored it. I could have told myself it was a prank. But the handwriting was hers. Not the note, the number scrawled across the back. Her old apartment. The one she told me she'd moved out of months ago. We were supposed to leave for our honeymoon that night. She was already upstairs in the suite, exhausted, tipsy, beautiful, married. I told her I was running down to thank the staff. Instead, I called a car. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not even my best man. The apartment was across town. Quiet street. 3rd floor. One window light on. I held my breath, slid the key into the lock, and opened the door. What I saw inside made my throat close. And suddenly, the wedding felt like a cover story. The door opened into silence. No lights. No music. Just the faint hum of a fridge and a soft tick from a crooked wall clock. The place wasn't empty. It was lived in. Shoes by the door, men's size 11. Not mine. A leather jacket tossed over the arm of the couch. 2 coffee mugs in the sink, still wet. And on the floor near the hallway? A pair of women's heels I recognized instantly. They were hers. My wife's. Hi again, Carter Hayes. And I was standing inside the kind of secret people don't leave behind by accident. This place, it wasn't forgotten. It was maintained. I stepped forward carefully. The couch had a dent where someone had recently sat. The throw blanket was still warm. Then I noticed the photos on the side table. Not framed, not posed. Just printed Polaroids. One showed her on a rooftop I didn't recognize, laughing. Another? Her and a man, dark hair, arms around her waist. Both of them smiling in a way she never smiled with me. I kept walking. Into the bedroom. On the dresser was a toothbrush, 2 actually. A framed picture of the same man shirtless in a pool. Cologne I'd never worn. A necklace I thought she'd lost, the one I bought her when we first started dating. She hadn't lost it. She left it here. The bed wasn't made. One pillow still had a dent. This wasn't a second apartment. This was a second life. And I had just walked straight into it. I didn't stay long. Didn't touch anything. Didn't take anything. I left the apartment exactly how I found it. Like a crime scene you don't tamper with when you know justice is coming. Back in the car, I sat in silence. No music. No tears. Just the weight of one question pressing down on my chest. Why marry me at all? Hi again, Carter Hayes. And I realized for the first time that I might have been the answer to a problem I never saw coming. Back at the hotel suite, she was fast asleep in bed. Makeup still on. Hair curled. A perfect picture of a perfect bride. I stood there in the dark and looked at her like a stranger. And for the first time in our entire relationship, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. The next morning she woke up before me, kissed my shoulder and whispered, "I still can't believe we're married." I smiled. And said nothing. Instead, I offered to pick up breakfast, said I wanted to surprise her. What she didn't know. I wasn't going for croissants. I was going back to that apartment, with a camera. Because if she was sleeping here, I wanted to see who was using the second key today. I parked across the street. Waited. And just before noon, a black sedan pulled up. Out stepped a man in a tailored suit, with a key of his own. He entered the apartment without knocking. And less than 5 minutes later, she followed. She was supposed to be in bed. Our honeymoon flight was in 5 hours. But there she was, in that same red coat she wore during our engagement shoot, unlocking the door to her hidden life like it was muscle memory. She didn't knock. She belonged there. Hi, Carter Hayes again. Sitting in my car across the street with a camera in my lap and a question burning in my throat like acid. Who the hell did I just marry? Inside, I watched through the lens as she greeted him. No guilt. No tension. She kissed him. On the mouth. It wasn't a fling. It wasn't lust. It was practice. They laughed. She tossed her coat over the same chair I saw the jacket on last night. Then they disappeared into the bedroom, closing the door like I never existed. I sat there for another hour. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because I didn't want to react like the man she thought I was. So I made a call. Not to her. Not to him. To a lawyer. I know this sounds insane, I said. But I need an annulment filed before midnight. And I need to know if fraud applies. He didn't even hesitate. Depends what you can prove. I sent him everything. And then I drove back to the hotel. She returned an hour later, hair damp from a fake shower, humming like nothing happened. I looked up from the couch and said calmly, "We're not flying anywhere." Her smile froze. And I added, "Also, you left your second apartment key in my suit pocket." Her face went white. She didn't say a word for 5 full seconds. Then, "I don't know what you're talking about." I stood slowly, pulled the key from my jacket and dropped it onto the glass coffee table. It clinked. Loud. Final. "You should sit," I said. She didn't. She stared at the key like it was a loaded weapon. I again, Carter Hayes. The man who used to believe love required trust. Now I know it requires truth even if it breaks you. She finally spoke. "It's not what you think." I laughed, once sharp. "Really? Because what I think is that you married me while maintaining a fully furnished apartment with another man who has a key. What I think is that this entire wedding was a cover-up for something else, and I have the surveillance to prove it." Her eyes darted to the door. She was calculating her exit. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she whispered. "But it did," I said. "And you signed the marriage license under false pretenses, which legally is fraud." Now she looked up, and I saw it. Fear. Because she wasn't scared of losing me, she was scared of losing whatever she was trying to protect. Then she made a mistake. "A big one," she said. "You don't understand. It wasn't about you. It was for him. We had to make it look real." I froze. Had to. And just like that, the truth widened. This wasn't an affair. It was a setup. A setup. 2 words that changed everything. I took a slow step back like the room had just shifted beneath my feet. "Start talking," I said. My voice wasn't angry, it was quiet. Dangerous. She looked down at the key. Her hands shook now. "It wasn't supposed to get this far," she said. "You were just supposed to be the face." I blinked. "The what?" Carter Hayes. Husband for less than 48 hours. Apparently, the face of someone else's scheme. She sat down, finally, and started to unravel it. "The man in the apartment, he's not just some guy. He's the real one. But his immigration status is complicated. A marriage would have triggered flags. He needed distance. Legally. Financially. Temporarily." She looked up at me. "You were stability. A clean record. A business owner. Someone the system wouldn't question." I stood frozen. "You married me," I said slowly, "as cover for his life." She nodded, tears now but not remorse. "Just panic. You were perfect on paper. That's why I pushed so fast. The wedding, the license, the honeymoon. We had a schedule. A schedule. Like I was a task. A box to check." I stepped back. My whole body went cold. "What happens to me?" I asked. "When you're done with the plan?" Her silence told me everything. I grabbed my phone. Dialed my lawyer. "Update the filing," I said. "Add conspiracy to defraud and immigration fraud facilitation. We're not just ending this marriage. We're pressing charges." She lunged toward me. "Carter, please." I stopped her with a single look. "You married the wrong man." She followed me into the hallway, barefoot, mascara running, voice shaking between desperation and disbelief. "You don't get it," she hissed. "He's not some criminal. He's important. He needed help." I turned slowly. "And I was what? Your visa mule?" I again, Carter Hayes. The man she thought would stay polite, compliant, in love. She didn't just underestimate me. She never saw me at all. By the time we left the hotel, my lawyer had already filed emergency documents. Annulment under fraud, injunction against shared assets, formal notification to immigration enforcement. She was listed. And so was he. I didn't speak to her again that night. Didn't need to. She knew what was coming. But he showed up the next morning. At my office. Slick suit. Fake smile. The kind of calm you only wear when you've done this before. "Let's be adults," he said. "You've made your point. You were never in danger. This was just temporary." I closed the door behind him. Let him speak. He handed me a check. 5 figures. "To make this go away." I looked at it. Then I looked at him. "You're not buying silence," I said. "You're buying evidence." He blinked. I slid a folder across the desk. Every message, every photo, the real estate lease with both their names. Bank transfers. The timeline. You can either leave now or be here when they come. He stood slowly. The smirk finally dropped. You'll regret this. I smiled. Try me. 2 hours later, I handed the entire file to federal authorities. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. It was fraud. Organized. Calculated. And tomorrow they'd both wake up to headlines they never planned for. The story broke at 7:42 a.m. Local news first. Then regional. Headline: Marriage fraud scheme uncovered. Groom exposes plot days after wedding. Their names. Their photos. The charges. Everything. I didn't speak to reporters. I didn't gloat. I sat alone at a cafe across from the courthouse, watching two people who thought they were smarter than everyone walk straight into a wall of consequences. Carter Hayes. The man they used as a shield, and the one who turned out to be their mirror. She was arrested first: immigration fraud, conspiracy, and falsifying marital documentation. She broke down in tears, claimed ignorance, said she loved me. I believed none of it. He went quietly. Had connections. But not enough. The investigator told me later, this wasn't their first attempt. Just the first time they slipped. In the days that followed, I annulled the marriage, sold my half of the condo, and donated the wedding gifts to a shelter. People asked if I was okay. But I didn't want okay. I wanted free. A week later, I received one final envelope in the mail, this time with no tape. Inside was a photo of her from years ago. Before the lies. Before the plan. On the back she'd written, "I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd ever find out." But I had. And that was the difference between who I was and who I'd become. I didn't burn the photo. I didn't keep it either. I just let it fall into the trash, quietly, completely, like the woman I thought I married. Because this wasn't a love story.